Hello everybody, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to this video, which is going to be a Christmas horror Blu Ray update, which is just like a normal horror Blu Ray update, but I wear this hat. Yeah, it's time again. I think it's number 8. It's either number 8 or number 7. And yeah, I've got a stack of 10 films to show off here. As you know, it's just being Christmas. I hope you all had a good time. So a lot of these are gifts. In fact, I think the first 2 I bought myself, the rest of them are all gifts from other people, so thank you very much. I will mention you as and when. And yeah, a really good selection here. We've got different companies, different eras, different filmmakers, so it should be an interesting one. We're going to go nice and varied this time. But we're going to start with the 2 that I bought myself, just to get them out of the way, because I have had these for quite some time. And the first is from 88 Films. And it's one of my nasties, one of my video nasties, that I'm really glad actually has a Blu-ray release. And I watched this the other day with my dad, and I'm pleased to say that it looks absolutely fantastic, especially considering what the original print looks like. And this is Absurd, from 1981, I want to say. It's either 81 or 82, I think. 81 there it says on the side. This is from the Italian collection from 88 Films, it's number 20. And yeah, this is a very bizarre movie. It was made as a kind of semi-sequel to Anthropophagus, although there's no real link made other than one of its alternate titles, I think is Anthropophagus 2, which is tenuous, but that's kind of how the Italian film industry worked at the time with these sorts of films. Yeah, it's one of the few films in here that I actually have seen, so this is going to be quite a strange one, but I can talk about this film. It's pretty much exactly what you think it is. It's like an Italian slasher film. And it kind of falls at all the same hurdles that a lot of these movies do. It's not really that well made. The pacing is off, especially towards the end. The end is horribly dragged out. It seems to get longer every time you watch it. It's really bizarre. But it's one of those that, it's kind of like a guilty pleasure where I admit it's not a great movie, but I do have a soft spot for it. As usual with 88 Films, you get a load of special features and things, as it says there on the back. I'll quickly open this up because we get a really nice booklet inside, which is the Sleazy Does It Video Nasties booklet, which goes through all of the section 1 and 2 titles, which is quite nice, by Callum Waddell, who I believe had something to do with the Video Nasties Definitive Guide, which is a really great documentary on all the Video Nasties, so you get a nice intro. Quite a long intro, and then it gets into all the movies there. So first alphabetically as Absurd, then Anthropophagus, Axe, Bloodbath, Beast in Heat, and it literally goes through all of the films in, I was going to say chronological order. It's not chronological, it is alphabetical order, and it's not like a whole load of information or anything. In fact, I think this might just be the section 1 titles, judging by how thin this is. I think it might be, yeah. But still a really nice thing to have there, ending obviously with zombie flesh eaters. So that's cool. The disc, as usual with these, comes on a lovely green colour, and the alternate artwork goes under the original Italian title, which is Rosso Sang, which I don't know what the hell it means. It's a really cool piece of artwork, but my only problem with it, as a few of them are, is I like the English title on the spine. So as much as I prefer that artwork, because it is very cool, yeah, I like to see sort of my most familiar title on the spine. So that's Absurd. It's not a film I can reasonably recommend to most people, but if you're a fan of kind of so bad it's good cinema, then maybe give it a go. It's not terrible by any means, and the soundtrack is actually really good. But yeah, it's just one of those, sleazy Italian movies that it's quite niche, but a lot of people really sort of seem to like these movies. So that's Absurd. Next in we are going with, I'm going to say a much more well-known film, and it's from a filmmaker that I only recently kind of discovered and frankly didn't think I'd like as much as I do. But this is an Arrow release of David Cronenberg's Rabid, again, which I watched recently with my dad. And there's a couple of David Cronenberg movies I'm not a fan of, but his early stuff generally I think is kind of more affecting to me. This and Shivers especially I find quite, I don't know if chilling is the right word. There's just something about them where they're clearly very low budget, but they're constructed very well and acted reasonably well, and they've got unique plot lines, so it's, they're really some very interesting films. First off, you'll notice the wonderful artwork. There was no question for me. I've always kind of liked this design that I've seen on the front there. And Arrow, again, special edition content. You've got absolutely boatloads of stuff. Pray it doesn't happen to you. And yeah, this is actually a dual edition, so along with a nice booklet, which I'll get to in a minute, we get the Blu Ray and we get the DVD. And I'll just quickly show off the original artwork, which is kind of, it's a very, very famous image. It's the girl in the freezer, which, oh, I like both of them. I'm going to decide later. I forgot how good the original was. Speaking of the original, I believe there's actually a remake of this in the making, which should be interesting. Yeah, then we've got a really nice thick booklet. There's the scene with the cow depicted on the front there. And it's, you know, it's the usual stuff, information about the film, the actors, and screen caps and things. Lovely. But yeah, I really appreciate stuff like this. It's stuff they don't really have to add in. But it's nice to see anyway. There's the infected police officer. So yeah, a really good package for that actually. And this, in my experience, wasn't actually too easy to find. I don't quite know why I wanted this film specifically. But I went looking for it and I found it at a reasonable price, but a lot of these go for quite a lot of money for some reason that I'm not going to pretend to understand. So yeah, if you can get your hands on Rabid, then I would definitely recommend it if you haven't seen it. And now we're on to all the gifts. The first two are from my good friend James Lorban, and I'm going to show them off at the same time. And I haven't seen either of these films, so we'll see how well this goes. Yeah, James sent me a big pack of stuff. He sent me some records, some CDs, and a couple of Blu-rays, and these are the Blu-rays. So we have Unbreakable and Split. Now, Split I'd heard of, Unbreakable I hadn't, and I didn't realise that they were connected, or that this came first, or I think that's... I always get confused. Unbreakable comes first, then it's Split, and I believe there's a new one coming out in 2019 called Glass, if my memory serves me correctly. But we'll start off with Unbreakable. Like I say, I haven't seen this film, although I've heard it's very good. Same with Split. So I can't unfortunately give too much away. And yeah, just comes on, oops, a lovely Blu-ray disc there. So I will, if you comment down below and you want to hear my thoughts on these films, I will get them watched as soon as possible. And I will let you know, although they seem like my sort of thing, so, you know, horror, thriller, sorts of genres going on in there. And then we have the sequel, Split, which is a film I was aware of, but I thought was a standalone movie. I didn't realise it was connected to Unbreakable, which, again, is fairly highly praised, but I haven't seen. So, same situation there, really. Again, comes on a lovely Blu-ray disc. Yeah, same situation. If you want to know my thoughts, comment down below, and I will get them watched and let you know. But I'm sure I like them, to be honest. And I didn't realise it was an M. Night Shyamalan thing. Speaking of M. Night Shyamalan, I rewatched Signs recently, and that is a damn good film if you haven't seen it. So yeah, thank you very much, James, for Unbreakable and Split. They are on my to-watch list. And the next film is a Christmas movie. And I know that Christmas movies don't generally belong in the horror genre, with a few exceptions, but this is possibly the most festive movie I've ever seen. And I have my friend Jack to thank for it, my friend Jack Holman, W, who always treats me on my birthday and Christmas with a lovely Blu-ray. It's from Eureka. It's from the Masters of Cinema series. It's number 88. And this lovely movie is Waking Fright. Which it's not a horror film as such, it's just got a horror title, and there's some pretty horrendous things going on in it. It's a movie set at Christmas, but there's not an ounce of Christmas in it. You know, I think they sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer at one point. And other than that, it's just horrendous from start to finish. Yeah, this is an interesting movie that I didn't know existed until Jack made me aware of it. It's from the early 70s, I think? 71? Early 70s. Stars Donald Pleasance. Set in Australia. It's about a teacher who is leaving for the Christmas break, but gets kind of roped into this weird community where he loses all his money gambling. And yeah, it's not a horror film in the sort of hack and slash tension scary sense. It's just kind of disturbing. And I don't know if I enjoyed it or not. Yeah, I watched this relatively recently, and stuck with me, but I don't really know why. It's not a film I'd say I disliked, it's just not one I'd put on very often because it's really depressing. But onto the package itself, it's from Eureka, who always do wonderful things. Got a lovely plot synopsis there. And it's heavy as well, and the reason it's heavy is because, again, dual edition, Blu Ray and DVD. It's the artwork under here. Oh good, we've got Donald Pleasance, we can't see, but it's Donald Pleasance with those horrible crossed coins on his eyes. Yeah, and we also get, there's a lot of booklets going on today. A lovely booklet, and the Eureka booklets are always really good. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of content. It's, I'm trying to think of other ways I can describe this movie, but I think just disturbing and off are probably the two best ways I could sum it up. Definitely not for everyone. I know my dad absolutely hates this movie, and Jack absolutely loves this movie. I think this is like his third favourite film. So if you haven't seen it, this is a film that exists that you might want to watch at some point in your life, but don't blame me if you find it horrendous, because it kind of is. Yeah, cool title up. That's what my dad said, is that it has a cool title, but it doesn't really fit the film. But yeah, that's Wake in Fright from 1971, courtesy of Mr. Jack Holman. So thank you very much, Jack. And the next bunch of five, and the last five to show off, are all from my dad, who I have to say has done a splendid job this year. Yeah, he's got me 5 films, a couple of records, as you will see in the next record update, and he's done especially well this year because it's stuff that I wouldn't. It sounds strange to say it's stuff I wouldn't buy myself, but it's stuff that I didn't know existed, that had I known existed would be straight on my wish list. We're going to start with another Eureka film, and this, for one, has some great artwork by Graham Humphreys, who is one of my favourite artists, and it is The Old Dark House from the 30s, starring Boris Karloff and Charles Laughton, and there's some other people in it as well, Melvyn Douglas, Gloria Stewart, directed by James Whale, who did Bride of Frankenstein, one of the most well-respected horror films ever made, arguably. So yeah, this is like a 1930s. It's not a horror comedy. There's drips of comedy in there, but it's largely a horror film. And it's just the classic haunted house. Well, not even haunted house, really. Just, you know, old dark house movie. There's lots of remakes and rip-offs of this, but this is the original. This is number 187 in the Masters of Cinema series. And the great thing about this is it's a slipcover, and underneath is the original artwork, which, I mean, I love this, but Graham Humphreys just always does a fantastic job. So that's what the original poster looked like there, the old dark house. Got loads of special features and things on here. Your plot synopsis there, open it up. As usual with Eureka, lovely booklet, picture of the director on the back there. And yeah, I don't really need to tell you what's in here. It's lots of pictures and information and interviews and things like that, which is always a pleasure to read. So, lovely edition there. And then, again, dual format. We've got the Blu Ray and the DVD. And I think, if we've got Boris Karloff staring at us through here, we have, just in the background there. I think he plays a butler. I haven't seen this. But I know it's very well respected and a lot of people really love it. So, yeah, that is The Old Dark House from 1932. So it's a fairly early movie in my collection. And this slipcover, if I remember rightly, is quite awkward to get on. Yeah, I'll leave that till afterwards. And this next one is actually the last movie in this list that I have seen. But it was ages ago, so I might as well have not seen it. And it's a film that I was made aware of by the Channel 4 programme, The 100 Greatest Scary Moments, which was aired a few years ago. And it was, I think it was like 98 or something, but it looked like a really weird, creepy movie. And I vaguely remember that was exactly what it was. And this is an Arrow release of The Night of the Hunter, starring Shelley Winters and Robert Mitchum. I think this was the only movie that Charles Laughton ever directed. Because Dad said the link of this this batch was Charles Laughton. It was the only film he ever directed, and that's a real shame because this is a really good movie. It's been ages since I've seen it, but I vaguely remember there's Robert Mitchum's after it's either money or drugs that are stashed somewhere, and two kids end up like getting hold of it, and there's a horrible sort of pursuit going on. I think it must be money there, because there's the kids are kind of displayed with dollar bills, so it must be money. I was getting it confused then with Wait Until Dark, the Audrey Hepburn movie, because that was drugs, wasn't it? But yeah, this is Night of the Hunter. This is not Wait Until Dark. Weird movie. Robert Mitchum seems to kind of steal every film that he's in, and in this he's a psychotic preacher, and it just it's very, very bizarre but very creepy. We've got a little poster card in here. This is a film by Elio Petri called Property is No Longer a Theft, which is not a film I've heard of, and then you get loads of mini posters and things on the back. Just the Blu-ray disc with this one. Really cool design on it as well, kind of a screen cap from the movie where he's stood outside the children's house under the lamppost. And the original artwork, I say the original because it is literally the original, that's the poster for the original movie. I really like the hand-painted posters of like the 50s and 60s, but I don't know, I'm kind of conflicted on this one, because it's cool but it's too dark, so I might change it over to that one. But yeah, that is The Night of the Hunter, which again, like Wake and Fright, arguably isn't really a horror film, it just has lots of creepy horror elements going on in it. As you can see, like it's a 12, so it's not going to be anything too I was going to say groundbreaking, but that's kind of giving it a disservice. It's not going to be anything too terrifying, but it's certainly a very, very creepy movie. That's that one there. And now we're into the Italian territory. We've got 3 Italian giallo films here from 2 of my favourite directors, Lucio Fulci and Dario Argento. I'm going to start with Fulci's movie. This is Don't Torture a Duckling, which is one of his early giallo movies. I'm trying to line it up for the thumbnail. Oh, that's weird. Sorry. Yeah. I say early giallo movies. It was a film that came kind of in the middle of his career, if I'm remembering rightly, because he did a lot of comedies and things like that before he became known as a horror director. But in terms of his horror movies, this is fairly early on. In fact, I think it's maybe his second giallo film after Lizard in a Woman's Skin. I don't know why they were always obsessed with animals in the titles. So there's Lizard in a Woman's Skin, there's Don't Torture a Duckling. Then there's the next 2, which also have animals in the title. But yeah, I haven't seen this movie, but I know a lot of people really love it. And as a fan of the Italian murder mystery giallo genre, I'm sure it's something that I will really enjoy as well. For those who don't know, giallo is kind of like a stylized murder mystery with lots of gore and lots of sex going on. And it's a perfect blend. And yeah, Don't Torture a Duckling is a classic example. Again, really cool slipcase. Underneath we've got the same artwork but in red. And again, this is really heavy. So we open it up and we have, guess what? It's another booklet with the usual Arrow stuff. We've got some artwork, interviews, pictures, screenshots, etc. She looks panicked. Yeah, really cool stuff. I nearly showed a naked lady then. Should I? Should I do that? Should we see how YouTube handles that? Goodness me. Yeah, and then again, dual edition. We've got the Blu Ray disc and the DVD, and the original artwork on this is better than that artwork. But again, like I say, I just like the title that I'm familiar with, and that is the Italian title down there. So yeah, really cool artwork, but I'd like the title Don't Torture a Duckling. I'm sure that is what it says, it's just I'm not Italian, so I wouldn't know. And again, I'm pretty sure this slipcase is a nightmare to get back on, so I may have to do it after the video. Yes, it is. I shall do it after the video. And now we're on to Dario Argento films. In fact, I'm going to switch the order of these round, because I think these came in chronological order. The first of these is another giallo, and it is the first movie that Dario Argento ever directed himself. And it is the critically acclaimed The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Yeah, I sat down to watch this movie and then I got distracted, and that's not to say the movie isn't good, that's just to say that I'm very easily distracted. So I need to sit down and watch this, and frankly I'm really glad that I've waited, because I now have this wonderful Arrow Blu-ray to watch. Again, murder mystery, it's Dario Argento, very stylish, very violent, very sexy. Yeah, pretty basic package on this one. I think there is like a fancy box set out there, but I'm not too much a fan of box sets, if I'm frank with you. And we, oops, lift the disc out there, and we've got the original Italian artwork, which again is probably better than that. I'm not entirely sure why we've got a drugged up peacock. But yeah, as you can see down there, it's the Italian title, which is not the one I'm familiar with. So I'm going to leave it at this for now. As far as I know, this is a very good movie. A lot of people really like it. It kickstarted Dario Argento's career, and he just, you know, up until like 1980, just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. So yeah, I have high expectations of this movie, but I know pretty much that they'll be met, because it's a giallo film, and I'm a sucker for a good murder mystery. And then the final film to show off is I don't know if I want to say it's not a sequel to The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, but Argento did, his first 3 films are known as the Animal Trilogy. I'm going to stop messing around with that because it's annoying. Because the first 3 of his movies all have animals in the title. There is The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, there's 4 Flies on Grey Velvet, and then there's this, Cat o' Nine Tails, but I'm not sure which order the last 2 go in. So yeah, again, it's more of the same pretty much. A murder mystery from Dario Argento. Really creepy artwork, because I didn't realise there was a girl tied up down there. I haven't seen it, so I can't really talk about the film. I know this isn't the most informative video in the world. But yeah, just ready to show off the nice films I got for Christmas. Yeah, another murder mystery, giallo from Dario Argento. Again, a lot of people really like this movie, although I think out of his first 3 movies, Bird with the Crystal Plumage is probably the most well-liked. So we'll see what I think when I watch it. As usual, it's Arrow, so we get lots of lovely things. And again, fairly basic package. We've got the disc in there. This is possibly my favourite artwork of the bunch, but again, it's the Italian title. So I'm going to stick with Cat o' Nine Tails for now. And we get a lovely poster card, which I believe is Ronan. It's Ronan, starring Robert De Niro. Yeah, kind of strange things to include, but I'm glad they do, because it shows off a load of the other releases that Arrow have done, because they have done a lot, so it's hard to keep track. Close. There we are. So yeah, Cat o' Nine Tails is the film we're going to finish on this very festive Christmas horror Blu-ray update. So there we are, a very gift-heavy episode, which I think is fair given the time of year. So yeah, let me know what you think of all the films I've shown off. But no spoilers, obviously, because I haven't seen a lot of them yet. But yeah, let me know what you think, if you think I'll like them. And I'm going to leave it there. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you again in another one very soon. Goodbye.